We are back and getting ready to go into our first match of 5 of the day, and it is going to be Jarla versus Seiko. Seiko did struggle a little bit towards the end of yesterday there. We did see that pre-struggle, and as I mentioned before the break, he isn't going up against an aggro lineup that he may have expected. He isn't really aiming to ban Priest because Jarla doesn't have Priest. Jarla has Mage, Highlander Hunter, the Galacrond Warlock, and then the Warrior, and the Warrior also has those Wrench Calibers too, so similar to what we saw from Swids yesterday, he does have that bomb package in the Pain Warrior. So again, just another awkward day, I would say, for Seiko, where his lineup and his thought pattern for it makes perfect sense to me. It's just he's not actually gone into the matchups that he's actually wanted, right? He's not hit those priest plays. He's not hit the lineups he wanted to go against.
Well, Abar has just made a very interesting point, actually, in our Discord, which is if you're Seiko and you're coming up against Jarla specifically, obviously you get to know your matchups ahead of time and then plan your lineups around them. Is bringing an anti-aggro lineup actually where you want to be? Because how often has Jarla played aggro? He did last week, to be fair. He did have Face Hunter in his lineup last week. But of course, historically, Jarla will be known for being one of the best control players in Hearthstone. So is bringing a very anti-aggro lineup really where you want to be at? When honestly, I think you can quite easily that Jarla will be looking at something pretty similar to what we're seeing, right? Which is about as anti-controller lineup as you can possibly come up with. Highlander Hunter, Highlander Mage, Wrench Caliber in your Warrior as well, just to blow up the control decks even more. Like it feels like Jarla will take any excuse to just bring something very greedy in either control or anti-control.
Yeah, and it's tough, right, though, because honestly, although that is true, from Seiko's point of view, okay, Jarla, is he going to bring Warrior? Almost certainly. Is it going to be Pain Warrior, at least variation? Almost certainly. You'd have to be crazy. And then you look at, okay, is he going to bring Priest? Well, Priest is kind of a slow late game, not a control deck, but you know what I mean? Just one of those slower late game decks. Jarla might be playing Priest. If that's the case, I'll ban it, which is what Seiko wanted to do against Priest this week. And then okay, is Jarla really going to not bring Demon Hunter? And I think that's where it's changed, right? Is yes, Jarla didn't bring Demon Hunter, but honestly, so many of the players have. What was it, 80+% of the players this week did bring Demon Hunter. I think it's overall fair from Seiko to even bring this lineup against Jarla, as he does have 2 opponents this week, not 1, which meant he had to consider his other opponent too. But it is a good point. Jarla, of all the players in Grandmasters, definitely one of the more slow, sort of favoring of controls. So we'll see how it pans out overall. We do see the Druid banned out there from Seiko, so he doesn't get to play that. And again, it's a shame we didn't get to see any of Seiko's decks banned, because his Druid actually was a lot of fun yesterday. We saw some of the tech cards, specifically Tree Enforcements, get some work done in the matchup. But the players are ready. Let's just kick it straight into it. Seiko on the Warrior and Jarla on this Mage. I did say you'd have to be crazy to bring a Control Warrior instead of a Pain Warrior. Seiko's crazy.
Yeah, he sure is. This is not your everyday warrior. This is the Bunny Hopper-esque Week 1 control style warrior instead from Seiko. So this is going to be already, right off the bat, a pretty slow and grindy one here up against the Highlander Mage, because Seiko is just going to have to be in outlast mode, and Mage has plenty of threats to keep the pressure going turn after turn after turn.
Yeah, and we didn't dive too deeply into this warrior, but basically, imagine you're a fairly recent player to the game. You don't have all the cards, you don't have all the dust, but you've got a bit. It's just a warrior deck that on the surface just looks to be full of, oh, well, what can I substitute for this? What can I substitute for that? There's a lot of one-offs. There is the Zephyrus Dragon Queen package, we see Dragon Queen there, but then there's like this 1 Cobalt Spellkin, there's 1 Brawl, there's 1 Cobalt Sticky Finger, there's 1 Shield Block, but then there's 2 Molten Breaths, there's the 2 Blade Storms, there's 2 Armor Smiths, 2 Battle Rages. So it is just a true mixed bag of a slightly slower value-based warrior list.
It is, yeah. It's one of those sort of semi-Highlander lists, I guess you can call them, where you play Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza, and Zephyrus, and then sort of limit your 2-ofs down to the absolute essentials as you see them, just so you're able to get those cards active as quickly as possible while still being able to play 2 copies of the real core cards to the deck. But I'm
just like Midlander warrior.
Yeah, yeah, sure, why not? I'm very upset to see this Grand Lackey Urk come back. Grand Lackey clear your throat noise. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. We played around with this in testing when this deck first appeared in week 1, and I just had no concept of what you were supposed to do in this card,
Right.
with this card in various matchups. It was one of the most perplexing cards in the deck to me.
Yep. Similar to pronouncing his name, you don't know how to do that or play it, so it's just a confusing card overall. We'll see how it goes though, because Seiko having put it into his deck, I'm sure he has a much better idea of what he wants to get out of this card anyway. It'll be a tough one against Mage though, I feel, because although there is removal, the hard removal isn't quite there, and although Mage can make very symmetrical boards, like Blade Storm isn't exactly the most consistent removal in the world, and it's not as if he's running Blade Storms and Plague of Wraths to just say, okay, sometimes Blade Storm clears what I want it to, and sometimes it's a Plague of Wrath activator. Psycho's running 0, so it really is just going to be a little bit awkward to get these Blade Storms off. Straightforward to me. This Twilight Drake going to be able to farm this Armor Smith quite easily. Don't think there's anything too much that Psycho's going to be able to do about it.
Shield Slam would have been a huge pickup there with the amount of armor generation that Seiko has in hand already. He has Molten Breath, which is active for the 5 armor gain. He has Evil Quartermaster as well. So Shield Block would have had a pretty huge payoff there, but he didn't hit it. But he did hit Playmore Lackey generation for this Grand Lackey Urk.
Also, bear in mind, Seiko actually runs 2 Boom Squad in his deck.
Yep.
It's like actual cards, so getting another one can't be that
What
bad.
to do?
What a day!
Really nice Rusted Raider, though. Again, the more although I'm not initially convinced by this card, the more I see it played, the more I do have some level of respect for it, because it is just it's more of a snap removal card as opposed to anything that you bother about the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe... No.
Could just go Blade Storm, and then Evil Quartermaster challenges what's left of the Twilight Drake. Doesn't look very pretty, but you get some level of the job done.
Right. Could also potentially just go for Lackey out to try and get rid of the 4-2, but that doesn't seem super important right now. Probably just better to develop his own game plan.
Yep, he has the armor. He's not getting rushed down by Jarla's mage anytime soon, so it's okay to just keep things trucking. In case you're wondering, just taking a look at Jarla's mage, it is I don't think there's anything too crazy in there that I can see.
He's playing a Blizzard, which is actually a talking point these days. A lot of the lists
I guess.
do cut out the Blizzard in favor of Overconfident Orc, or to make extra room for the Imprisoned Observer that's come into the list recently. So there still being a Blizzard in there does actually change the dynamic quite a lot, because it's something that I found myself having to check multiple times during games in previous days and previous weeks of, whether Tortollan actually has an out for Blizzard from the deck and all that kind of thing. So
yeah, even seeing the difference between, for example, no Ancient Mysteries that we've seen, because in Jarla's there's Ice Barrier and no Flame Ward.
Mm-hmm.
So then suddenly if there's no Flame Ward, no Second Secret, there's no Ancient Mysteries either, which then does free up a couple of slots to maybe put Blizzard back in the deck.
Right.
I personally like Blizzard. I would feel uncomfortable not playing Blizzard in Reno Mage myself, just because I think the card is just so good at not only stalling, but softening up the board for your removal tools after the fact as well.
Right.
Cartup being a little bit annoying, making this minion not be able to trade off this Twilight Drake here for Seiko. It's big old whelp, just as something to actually do.
Yeah, Hot Air Balloon seems kind of meh.
But we're not thinking about the Grand Master Lackey guy.
Clean up this mess.
I gotta move!
I guess Seiko just views the Faceless Lackey as the thing to do this turn, right? Whereas Big Old Well probably wasn't playable here if he wants to take the removal turn. Gives up the Lackey with his improved morale as well, just in order to get the full clear. But again, should be pretty fine for Lackey. Well, actually, he only has Grand Lackey plus Witchy Lackey right now, which could be problematic if he can't have other minions in play to get the chain going.
I wonder.
I wonder if this is ever just Reno. Which looks terrible. But there aren't that many threats that Seiko actually runs in the deck, so I'm not sure like what Reno is being saved for. Because Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is probably going to generate a lot more than 10 health, which means well, Reno doesn't just answer it directly. There's Deathwing Mad Aspect, but that's not going to be played until you play stuff anyway. And I'm already running out of threats in the deck, so I don't know. I just wondered if that was just a quick drop the Reno down, get the board, and see what Seiko does afterwards.
Well, here's an interesting point of perspective from Jarla, and this is something that I've sort of been trying to spend a lot of the early turns of this matchup crystallizing in my head, is does Jarla actually have to be the aggressor in this matchup? Because the more and more I think about it, I think the potential answer is no. Because Seiko is not playing an Elysiana in this list. And so alongside that, he's also playing double Battle Rage, Shield Block, so on and so forth. Like, he's the one that draws cards. And as you mentioned, he's extremely threat light. So if Jarla just holds on to all his removal and just kills everything that Seiko plays, does he actually ever need to conduct an aggressive game plan?
I guess, yeah, it's a fair point, because I think the only thing that Jarla has to consider is one, now that this Lackey generation is going to be cut off if he kills it off this turn, of course. He doesn't have to worry as much about Draconic Lackeys. But outside of that, as long as he holds his amazing Reno for the Alexstrasza turn, yeah, is he just safe? Like, is that just the whole game, however silly it sounds?
Right. I guess Seiko does have like Kargath Blade Fist, Bloodsworn Mercenary, and stuff like that available to him. It's also worth noting there's 2 Dragon Queen Alexstrasas in Jarla's future, because this is a generated one in hand for Seiko, I believe. I believe he still has his natural copy remaining in his deck.
What to do?
Is it? I thought that was his natural one.
My deck tracker tells me that there's still a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in his deck.
Got a ref check somewhere, but I'd probably trust your deck tracker more than my memory. I just don't remember him selecting it, but I could easily be wrong.
Cards
not live
are, yeah, two draws away from being active, a Shield Slam and a Battle Rage, it looks like.
Has he drawn a natural Boom Squad as well?
Yep.
So many
I think that's where this came from.
Also, this Kobold Sticky thing are obviously not going to get any value, really, against Jarla unless something crazy happens from a Yogg box, but let's not talk about it. I do like this just being played out. Like, just get it out of your hand, especially if you're going to plan on trying to generate more stuff. Just get some space there and put a minion that at least Jarla has to consider.
Right.
And this is where I think we'll start to really see Jarla's overall game plan, because if I'm in this spot as the mage player, I'm struggling to not want to go aggressive because my opponent's just done nothing. But the problem is, as you mentioned, if you go aggressive, then it activates Seiko's removal cards, whereas if you just don't, then yeah, the reason Seiko's not doing much is probably because he has loads of removal cards in hand and he didn't want to use them, or they're inefficient at dealing with just this Reno and the 2-1 Bone Raid. It's just a weird sort of moment there, and Jarla is just going to slam this Alexstrasza down. Ooh. Okay. Got some good ones, Sottle.
He has. I kind of just want to hold on to both of them.
Well, the Zaraku, you always save that for the pink face, right?
Right.
That just generates an extra 6/6. But yeah, I see no reason to go any further than this, right? This is more than enough pressure on the board.
Should be very close to demanding Brawl already, I would argue.
Execute's going to help out a lot, though.
It is, yeah, especially with the Kobold Lackey as well.
Maybe... No.
I don't really see too much else. Well, the weird thing with this Battle Rage is because he's not exactly getting aggro down. He's not damaged himself. He's not going to get anything from there. If he uses the skipper, though, this could change.
Yeah.
Wait, where's he going with this? I thought he was going to lackey the Reno.
Your flaws are your strength.
He gets to kill the 8-4 without using the Execute by
Okay.
doing it this way. Kind of interesting,
That
I
leaves
guess.
up the Reno.
Yeah. Deserves an Execute. You can kind of see what I'm talking about, right? Seiko just popped off that turn, cast Shield Block and Battle Rage. Like, it's Seiko's job to find a win condition here.
The fate of the world hangs
A really nice hold, though. But it helped that the minions were good on their own from Alexstrasza. But yeah, I really did like that Jarla hold.
Sorry, this is very strange. There's a turn that Jarla played last week, I believe, which is highlighted in Gia's Mullet Over for the week, where he was playing a Arcane Breath early to look for a payoff spell. A Netherwind Portal, a Pexis Blast was like the exact combination that he found at that time as well.
Just what it says, right? Discover these cards.
Yeah.
Time runs out on me.
Hey, though, do you see Jarla going to be using the Blizzard by looks things? Does clear up the board quite nicely, and of course, 0 mana with Malygos has a full turn to back it up with. I wonder again if he needed to overly play the Tiamat, or maybe he could have just played the. What's the name of the card? No, the Imprisoned. Dude, the Imprisoned Observer, that's the card. Instead, because it's an extra minion on board, but also kind of not, because it's in its dormant form.
Right. Maybe because he has the Netherwind Portal here, he feels a bit stronger over committing. Because the way Netherwind Portal works is after the spell is cast, so it doesn't get caught in a brawl or anything else like that. Seiko will have to dump a spell to activate if he wants to go for a brawl this turn.
Yeah, and also, to be fair, although Jarla doesn't, we talk about Jarla doesn't have to go overly aggressive, he still has a ton of threats left, right?
Yep.
Still has his Deep Freeze, he has Power of Creation, he has his normal Alexstrasza, he has Puzzle Box, however much you want to label that up as a threat or not. Seiko is able to proc the secret and then go into the brawl, making the brawl actually better. He can just Bladestorm.
Yep.
Nice.
Still means it's a 2-for-1 removal turn, though. If there was a minion there that he felt like he could have left alive, he'd just be saving a whole card in that scenario, which is extremely valuable.
It is, but I think if you want to throw away an extra removal, it probably is a Bladestorm, right? As I mentioned earlier, how hard it is to actually get guaranteed kills with that card against Mage.
Sure.
What to
Ooh, are
do?
we going to see the old
What to do?
Mally double fireball go like we did the other day? I think that was that yesterday? I think it was, right?
It was yesterday, yeah, pretty sure.
Whenever there's a priest mirror involved in a day of casting, I feel just like my last year's worth of casting molds into just one, and I can't quite separate the. Could just go Zaraku. Reutilize his hand that much though, because again he doesn't want to overly commit to the board, so he's just going to go for the Malygos. None of the good options though. The Nova, not great again. Seiko's not going to be putting on too many aggressive threats. If that was against Pain Warrior, we thought, but not quite good enough. He is going to go for the Zaraku ping. I love it. And again, just suddenly a huge threatening board out of nowhere. And unlike most Dragon Queen Alexstrasza turns, Jarla's actually managed to just be able to say, oh, this Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is going to make 3 turns worth of threats, which is very, very uncommon overall. Yeah, it is on Seiko to be able to respond to this, and did just use a brawl and a
So
blade storm,
many choices.
so he is going to struggle right now. Looks like Kargath execute, Molten Breath execute. These things are the only freelancer Seiko has, because his Zephyrus and his Alexstrasza are still not live.
The blade fist has no master. I have more to give.
He's going to have to commit Kargath and the execute in there. The Prime's in the deck, which is another removal piece in itself, since not many things survive a 10-10 rush.
Right, but having used the Bloodsworn Mercenary previously, it does mean he's now just down to that single copy, which is one of the big payoff turns you can have with the deck. Sure, Psycho just says have your bombs, I don't care.
As is always the case, Sottle, I was just putting Alexstrasza for Jarla. That's
I mean,
everything.
it's still possible.
Yeah. Purely because this, even if this board's dealt with, he gets the 4/5 next turn. From the Dormant as well as like an extra level of threat. He can Alexstrasza, peel off all this armor and push some damage. He can still do that with the coin here. Although, because he's still going to only hit armor, right?
Time runs out on me.
Most likely, yep.
This dodges that bomb's going on the Alexstrasza. I like this a lot. I like this a lot. Okay, from Jarla. He's done a good job with this turn.
Yeah, I like it too. Finally, the Shield Slam comes into hand for Seiko, and that means that all of the cards are active now. Most importantly, well, not most importantly, the most important card here is almost certainly the Zephyrus, but also very importantly, he actually just has a Shield Slam now, which is a card he would have liked for almost any turn of the game up until this point.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? It's the Shield Slam draw is great because it activates his Highlander cards, but the Shield Slam draw as you lose all your armor and are facing down a huge board, not so great time. It does have Molten Breath to make up some of it though, but if he Molten it. Is it then going to be something along the lines of Molten Breath, Shield Slam, Zephyrus removal in that way so we can get Zephyrus on board? Looks not to be.
What would you? You'd have 3 left at that point? What would you even get that's clearing board? I don't think that even works.
Oh, yeah, I guess you'd leave the 2/8 up, right? Very similar to this outcome with Shadowwood Ruin.
No.
Okay.
But you'd have armor, I guess is the difference. Interesting.
What's this?
Just rips the nether, but Jarla has plenty more where that came from.
Even that draw, fantastic. He can just save Zephyrus for the actual the lethal.
Avenging Wrath ping is lethal, right?
Oh, Avenging. You know what? I always forget about Avenging Wrath,
Yep.
honestly. I always forget about it, but you are completely right. With just on board, 6 mana, healing, plus the ping from the mage, you are completely right, Sottle, that is lethal. And Jarla takes game number 1 over Seiko, and I think Jarla played that very, very well indeed. The portioning out of the threats was almost perfect.
Yeah, I think looking at it, I think that matchup is just free. Right? Like, I think if Jarla had decided to just play nothing and just kill everything that Seiko played, that would have won. I think if he'd have just played the most power he could have done every single turn of the game, that would have won. I think Jarla played a pretty fantastic middle ground that was probably the optimal way of doing it, where he, parceled out his threats very nicely and always had refill, but always had pressure at the same time. And obviously we saw that one by quite some distance. Really just feels like that is a pretty miserable matchup for the Warrior from my perspective.
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to see if we just magically played that again was what would happen if Zephyrus and Alexstrasza was live before Seiko was just already dead. So he could actually maybe do something with that by either put on some threats or have a stronger removal tool than the desperation, will I do this and twist in nether and then my turn on 9 health. Because if he'd just drawn that Shield Slam any earlier, Maybe it looked a little bit closer. By no means am I saying that suddenly Seiko would win, because that matchup, I do agree, does look pretty bad on the surface. But that's only game number 1. Jarla taking a lead 1-0 over Seiko. We're going to go to a quick break while we set up our game number 2. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.
My Hearthstone play is a product I need to sell.
Oh. It's gotta be catchy, right?
Huh. I actually have no clue what to say.
When people sub, I snap and say, "Welcome to the farm."
Welcome to the farm.
Yeah, they're part of the, because they're on the farm. Walking towards Animal Farm. Welcome to the farm when they sub.
I will just say TTTT. Everyone can be as good as me.
The play from somebody who has never misplayed.
It's good. Be French, be good. Getting rank 1 with Jarla.
You can't outvalue me.
Unity, precision, perfection. Like that very familiar Hearthstone card. Also broken. Just like my play.
Come for the stay for the rope.
We are back and ready to continue our series here between Seiko and Jarla. Jarla taking game number 1 with that Mage versus Warrior matchup that looked very one-sided on the surface, at least. And this just might continue, honestly, Sottles. We can see Jarla had his Hunter banned out, but his Galakron Warlock and his Bomb Warrior are not really the decks, or Bomb Pain Warrior, that Seiko is probably planning to go up against, right? They actually look like decks he might actually just be very weak to, and maybe he did just not quite get the lineup ready for this week and for his specific opponents.
Yeah, he did say, I know you spoke to him specifically, so you can correct me if I'm wrong on this assessment, but I think he said that, you know, he did feel like he was taking a risk, shout out to Hot Takes this week, I guess, with his lineup, and that, you know, he wished he potentially had a bit more testing, but he just kind of YOLO'd with his lineup. Is that kind of the theory of what he came out with?
Yeah, I think Seiko's one to always just do his own thing anyway with lineups, but I think the main point was what he was expecting to go up against was kind of correct. It just wasn't the opponents he actually had this week, which was, I guess, the frustration. And I think the Quest Warlock from like the likes of Ball Control as well would have thrown him off a little bit. I don't think he was expecting, you know, the slower Warlocks to be involved at all. But maybe this is just maybe a bit too just slower read from Seiko in terms of the meta. But he did take the risk, and it doesn't seem to be paying off for him so far as we enter game number 2. And it is going to be a Warrior Mirror in class alone.
Yes. I never quite know how to feel when I get this kind of mulligan that Jarla just hit. Battle Rage opening hand, usually a little bit too early. The One More Challenger off the top does push it a little bit more into the positive. But obviously Grom opening hand, meh. But Corsair Cash, unless you're exactly Tom60229, Corsair Cash is usually the single best card in your mulligan in just about every matchup.
It just opens up the rest of your game plan, doesn't it? There's not a lot of things you actually ever want to do on curve with Warrior right now. It's not like Armor Smith on curve is a play you're aiming for, again, with many other things like that. So the fact that you can do that and then set up a powerful follow-up and then powerful follow-up for the next few turns, honestly, then it's just so strong that I couldn't imagine ever mulliganing away that card.
Right. And since he hit specifically Ankar with it, I think this opening hand has just pushed pretty firmly into fantastic territory, because now that Battle Rage is active. Like, it might not be active right now, but with one Pirate already drawn in the Sky Raider and a 3-charge Anchor in his hand, that Battle Rage is going to get played with a skipper at some point this game. It's just going to happen.
Yep, and even with Seiko's anti-aggro approach, he is not actually running weapon removal outside of arguably Zephyrus in the deck, so...
Yeah, he is.
Won't be able
Sticky
to...
Finger. He's got Sticky Finger.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay. He isn't running Ooze, so it's not going to affect it early enough, I'll say, at least for this Ankar. But yeah, you are right, of course he's running. Probably mainly for the Demon Hunters, isn't it?
Well, I think, again, since he's intending to leave up Warrior by banning Priest was his intention, as we've talked about a lot, even though he's not facing any Priests. I think it's a nod to Warrior as well. I think it makes sense. But yes, just the fact that he's chosen to use specifically the 5-cost one does seem to suggest that it's stronger against Demon Hunter.
Do you see as well Jarla there with that Wrench Caliber instead of the live wire lances does mean he can start shuffling the bombs into the deck and also continue to keep Seiko's deck deactivated with the Zephyrus and Ysera in there. So Ysera, Alexstrasza, sorry. So it's going to be even more of a problem for Seiko.
Yeah, I'm curious as to whether the players who brought bombs this week were expecting Quest Warlock in doing so. I think Swids just brought it because it's what he's brought every week.
Swids,
I don't think he's adapted too much. But you know, Jarla, I'm not entirely sure whether he's had Wrench Caliber in his banned Warrior before, but if he hasn't, I do think it's a pretty heads-up play, expecting a little bit of Quest Warlock this week, because it's just like it's a triple threat against Quest Warlock. It's shuffling bombs into their deck so that they draw a bunch of cards, they take damage from bombs. It also just disrupts with their 0-mana life tap, because you can draw a 0-mana bomb, and then the bomb goes off and you draw a regular cost card after that, after the bomb goes off. And then on top of all of that, like you said, it shuffles duplicates into the deck, so it deactivates Zephyrus and Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. So just a single card, it's so powerful against Quest Warlock in particular, but also pretty strong looking in this matchup as well. You are against the Battle Rage deck, let's not forget. This might be Control Warrior, but it is still playing the full Risky Skipper package.
Yeah, it's not Control Warrior with fatigue in mind, really, is it? It has Zephyrus and Alexstrasza, but that's going to happen early rather than later most of the time, so...
What now?
Let's see how Jarla progresses here. Already got Seiko down to 23, which doesn't sound low, but it's getting there when you sat with Grom in hand and some Wrench Caliber swings too.
Mm-hmm. Nice when you are planning Risky Skipper turns that you can deal with the Bomb Wrangler now and not have to worry about that further down the line.
Yeah. Also as well, a win here for Jarla, I think would just guarantee him a playoff spot as well. Whereas if Seiko takes a loss, he goes to 3-3. Kind of joins the middle of the pack, I would say, in Division A.
Right. I think Jarla is already locked to playoff spot, actually. Six players in Division A get to playoffs, and there's 3 players who only have 1 win with 2 games left. So there's no way that enough players can get to 4 wins to be able to overtake him.
Yeah. I do consistently just have the Division B outcomes in my mind of scores, but yeah, you're right, Division A. It makes it a little bit more cozy, a little bit more easy for some of these players.
Mm-hmm.
we've not even hit the point of, or at least I've not yet, of actually sitting down and working out who actually only has one match left next week.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some players, right, that only actually have one match left as opposed to two, so
Yes.
it's a lot that can mess around with. But we'll get you all that information ready and locked for next week. You guys, don't you worry about that.
Yeah, if anything, like breaking it down, it's actually the reverse, and it's Seiko that has the winning in here, because then he would go to 4 wins as well and be in that same position where not enough players will be able to catch him up on 4 wins if he wins this one. So I believe a win here for Seiko would in fact lock up a playoff spot for him.
I gotta move.
Just going to go Blade Storm even though it leaves the Challenger up. I think that's fair. Only leaves it as a 1-1. That does the job. Reduces down the board.
Job done.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty important as well, I think, because it mitigates the effect of a big Battle Rage or a big Blood Boil Brute on the following turn. Seiko knows that Jarla has risky skippers at this point, so he needs to plan for making that as small a turn as he possibly can. So leaving multiple minions up on board there with 2 and 3 health was extremely dangerous for Blood Boil Brute and for Battle Rage, particularly when Seiko doesn't have a Brawl in his hand currently, so wouldn't necessarily even be able to deal with that board state unless the Blade Storm that he just used would be able to answer it after the fact, and that seems unlikely.
Yeah, and of course, you know, as you pointed out, he knows because of the Ankar he has these risky skippers, right? But in general, if I'm against a warrior that has this many cards in hand, and I know some of them are risky skippers, I assume they can do the best, right? They can just do the best turns. So I think just almost always playing around the big potential outs here for the Pain War is a good idea at this point, right? Of course, they're actually not too bad, just reducing down an additional removal tool, honestly, for Jarla with that weapon. I would like to see, sorry, for Seiko with that weapon. I would like to see Jarla equip this French caliber and just start swinging, start stacking it up.
Last minute diversion, it looked like there from Jarla, though, to suicide his existing Warmaul Challenger to preserve 2 extra health on the new one. Probably the correct call, all things considered.
With risky skipper in hand, right? It's a 1-1, you can't in a rage it either. Like, why not get rid of it and save some health? I like it.
Yeah, the argument would be with Battle Rage and with Blood Boil Brute in hand, maybe 2 damage minions on board was better than 1. But overall, I think I like doing it this way. I'm at least pleased because, you know, I talked about my Grand Lackey Urk woes at great length. But this is at least what I ended up doing after multiple experiments, is just the first turn I could play it and play a couple of lackeys, I just did it. It seems to be where Seiko's been at in both of these games so far with the card.
Yeah, and I think I've committed now, or decided at least to just go with Grand Lackey Eric.
So many choices.
Grand Lackey Eric?
It's close enough for the name. Like, that just seems good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Scandinavian. He's from Jönköping.
Yeah, there you go. The Boar Brute can come down this turn, or Jarla could actually just go for some bomb wrangling instead with the help of this Armor Smith.
Right.
I wonder if just risky skipper, bomb wrangler, and battle rage is just enough.
Yeah, so he's starting the turn with 8 cards in his hand, plays 3 to draw 4.
I wonder.
Seems fine. Yeah. Other options, just Reg Caliber, tidy up Eric very efficiently.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 options for me at least. I'd never mind getting this French Caliber looking for Jarla, but mainly just because the quicker he gets the bombs in the deck, the quicker there isn't just oh, Zephyrus is active already? Come on, you know, there's at least just reduce the chances of that happening.
There is always that fear of the Cobalt Sticky Finger, though, now that we've reached the phase of the game where it will be relevant for Seiko.
It's only 1 swing, though, and I think if you're going to worry too much about it, then you're not going to end up playing one of your strongest tools in the matchup.
Yeah, agreed.
Funnily enough, I think if it was Corsair cached, it's probably worth holding. Trying to just maybe use it towards the end of the game.
Sure. Yeah, that's an argument. Yeah, it'll be difficult to like get past the Cobalt Sticky Finger, but I could definitely see like waiting it until you get more immediate payoff, more surprise damage. Ooh. Wow. Okay. That's a game plan, I guess.
It is, and it might be one we see come into play sooner rather than later, even though Seiko's hand is pretty full. Because it's not as if Seiko can say, okay, I'll wait till the final, last-ditch moment and then slam Deathwing, because you can get grommed. You can die from bombs. Like, I don't think time is something that Seiko really thinks he has, even though he's running more of a control list. I think from Seiko, I'd like to see maybe even it on curve, if possible, drop his Deathwing and just use it to go for the win.
I mean, he seems to be signaling that at least a little bit. That was a big old hand dump that turn.
There's not really an answer to Deathwing for Jarla, is there? Like, you can't just deal 12.
Right. The answer would be just stacking so much armor with Armorsmith that the Deathwing can't race you anymore, and the Deathwing would just have to trade down the board instead.
But that's it. That's hard, right? That means your response to Deathwing would have to be to generate a big board with an Armorsmith exactly, right?
Well, I mean, he's just done it right now. He's done it preemptively, right? Like, he's already at 36. That's 3 hits of Deathwing.
True, but he's used a lot of his minions in the process, hasn't he?
Yep.
Whereas if there's nothing for Deathwing to trade into, it's already been used, then Deathwing has that freedom to go face once again.
And there is, of course, the counter Deathwing. Since Jarla is a mad aspect gamer, he can just straight up trade Deathwings and carry on with his life if it does come down to that at this point.
I do like the Brawl being used here, though, because Sword on board plays up whatever's left over.
Yep.
Job done.
Will we see Jarla just play a tempo 12-12 here? Because I think that is a realistic possibility as well.
You do it fairly often when you run Deathwing in this deck, actually. Or say say there's like a 1-1 on Seiko's side of the board. You just play into it half the time. Just because you say, oh, well, can you actually kill this 12-11, this 12-10, this 12-9, whatever. A lot of these the answers actually no.
It's actually pretty nuts, right? Because Seiko's on 8 armor right now. He's used a lot of armor generation cards. He's also used 1 Shield Slam. So his ability to kill it straight up is limited to probably just Blade Storm. And then if it sticks, well, you have Inner Rage, Rampage, Bloodsworn Mercenary in hand, and your opponent has used their Brawl, and there's a good chance their Zephyrus isn't active at this point as well.
Right. Yeah, Zephyrus is the kicker, isn't it? If Zephyrus is live, everything changes, but it's as not live as it's ever going to be right now, so why not? And are you ever getting any better value? Like, are you really thinking Seiko's going to make a threatening board outside of exactly Ysera? God, I keep saying Ysera today. What's wrong with me? Alex Trouser.
Sure, I guess this is the same thing. You get to deal 12 immediately. Everything that I said about the Bloodsworn Mercenary is still there, and you're actually even more playing around Shield Slam because you carve off the 8 armor that was there to begin with. Yeah, this is probably just better than what I was saying.
Yeah, looks like it's got 12 attack to me, Sottle, so I can get behind it. Just rampage for lethal.
I mean, you always style on him with the Bloodsworn Mercenary if this thing sticks. Okay, finds the Blade Storm. Incredibly crucial draw for Seiko. He was just dead. Have to have been like Armorsmith Titanic Lackey in response to this or something. There was no removal.
Right.
And then Bloodboil Brute still would have been able to end the game.
Jarla is running Corcrons as well, though, so he does have access to, even if it ends up being like Risky Skipper, Corcron, Rampage, or something on those lines. Or more realistically, Rampage plus 1.
Yeah, Seiko just continuing to play his cards here. He does seem to be gearing up for that Deathwing sometime soon. Speaking of gearing up for Deathwing.
Psycho's like, nice Deathwing. Check out the original.
Mine has Rush. Kind of.
Definitely loses its edge when you just go afterwards.
Well, there's one play, right?
Yes. The problem is when you start thinking greedy or thinking, oh, I'm cool, I'm gonna get more value out of this Deathwing, you just die. So, never worth it, at least for me. Unless your one play was the greedy play style, in which I don't know if we can be friends.
What on earth is the greedy play?
I mean, like taunt up a bit, evolve the sticky finger and taunt it, for example, and try and just get more out of your Deathwing, but it's so risky, and you do just die most of the time.
Okay. Well, this is a problem.
It's okay, the bombs will go off.
2 bombs now in the deck. 3 have been shuffled, 1's been drawn. Cobalt Sticky Finger was discarded. Jarla will have seen that. This is what I said, like, 38 health. 40 health. Jarla can just race.
Love it, it's just like, I'm here, what can we do? I don't have any other minions to play with you, Risky Skipper, be quiet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Skipper, Corkron, Rampage, Bloodsworn, all the cards, get them played. That is a quick 2-0 now going over for Jarla. I like the try, it was a good effort with the Deathwing being chosen. I like the way Seiko played, just kind of recklessly throwing out his hand up until that point, just trying to get use out of as many cards as he possibly could before he was forced into Deathwing. But as I said, it felt like Deathwing needs to be able to race in situations like that, right? And it was just so far off from being able to do that.
Yeah, and also the problem with Seiko's build is there weren't that many even draws. Yes, he got Risky Skipper, which may as well have not been a card for that one draw after the Deathwing. But there really weren't that many 2-draw. It was probably just exactly activated Zephyrus or Dragon Queen Alexstrasza that could have got him out of the mess with either Taunt Dragons or heal in some way or whatever. So yeah, even with the Deathwing, which I do agree was correct, it just wasn't good enough. And it's just the raw power of this warrior deck. Yes, there's the bomb package in there, but just in general, multiple ways to deal damage, the weapons, the Grom, their own Deathwing if they played it, but also these Corkrons and different variations of Rampage, Bloodsworn Mercenary. And that's why the deck's so strong. There's just multiple routes to the same ending. And that ending is just another Pain Warrior victory. But Jarla going 2-1 up now, 2-0 up, sorry, over Seiko. And now he only has his Galakron Warlock. But I'll confess, I don't think that the Warrior has a much better matchup versus Galakron Warlock either. We are going to see Seiko's Rogue in action.
All right, I want to see this thing get rolling because Seiko did pick up a win with this in his match yesterday, but essentially he played 2 Frozen Shadow Weavers and the game ended. Like that was all that happened. We didn't get to see any of the nonsense in his deck. He had 2 Scrapyard Colossus in his hand, I think, at the end of the game, but none of that mattered because he just drew 2 Frozen Shadow Weavers and that won the game. So I actually want to see this deck pop off this time around.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So far, he does still have. Seems to be pretty good at drawing this Scrapyard. What's that card? Sorry, the Scrapyard Colossus. I wanted to call it a Scrapyard Golem. I just knew that's wrong. They actually have Apothecary now, though.
He does, and he's on coin.
Bane of Ladder.
It was, yeah. Yeah, just bear in mind that when you see how powerful this thing is going to be this game, this card got nerfed.
Also, as well, it probably does fairly well versus Warlock in a roundabout way, because although Warlock has the hard removal of Plague, it doesn't have a way to deal with the Death Rattle aspect, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, Plague the board down, I just get it rebuilt back again.
Jarla just doing Galakron Warlock things, just getting those invokes down nice and quickly as you do, but now, boom! Necrium Apothecary. Scrapyard Colossus. 7/7 taunt inside that Death Rattle on turn 4. Alright, Plague of Flames.
I will act as your scale.
Right enough though, right?
It's not, but it could be in the coming turns.
And I think
Worth
that's the
noting
big
as well
difference.
that... Sorry,
Go on.
go ahead. No, you.
Well,
no,
okay.
you.
Well, the big difference from this Death Rattle Rogue to one you may remember is no Necreum Vial, so and no Necreum Blade. So there are no cards in the deck that say, okay, I have this 7/7 and this 2/5. Now I can generate like 2 to 3 more 7/7s and still have the 2/5 Death Rattle protect the board. So it really is just a like powerful card that does one powerful thing once a lot of the time.
Yeah, this Bone Wraith is smart though from Seiko. I think that gives him the most protection here against potential Plague of Flame problems, because again, Jarla will have to deal with the Apothecary before he does that, but he does have the coil to be able to do so now, which is potentially huge. He also picks up 4th Invoke alongside that as well.
Yeah, Warlock does love it, doesn't it? With the Invokes, gets there pretty quick. Quite often.
You just always top deck Galakron next turn. Seen this game before.
Well, the turn's not even bad to do it, right? Is he gonna wait?
He's gonna chill.
Okay. Well, honestly, because of no Necreum Vial, because of no Necreum Blade, why does he care about 2/1?
I instantly flick these 1/1s. Yes! That's the play.
Boom!
Think you're cute and wide on board? Get wrecked.
This is the point, right? Like, this Apothecary is only a threat because it has a 7/7 in it. Well, that means that Seiko will actually want to trade it off. You won't want to leave it as a 2/5 and gain value from it, because there's no value to actually gain.
Yeah, this is the potential problem, though, that you now just played so many Invokes that you don't have the ability to go wide and use the Plague of Flames in the same turn because you don't have any more Invokes to play alongside it. Of course, Jarla is probably justified in feeling like his wide board always sticks against Rogue. They don't really play cards that deals with that situation. Or rather, they play one, and it's Flick. It's exactly Flick. That was the only real card that could deal with the spot.
I don't even know what you're on about, Saul. I saw 3 2-drops and a Plague that would have done the job there. So
3 2-drops and a Plague? Yeah, okay.
That's up to me.
Yeah. So how much is Moarg Dark Skies now? Not enough, right? The Skies would do 8 procs, so 16 total. Yeah, not even close.
Not considering this Bone Wraith is going to end up getting some damage in as well, right?
Yeah. You'd be good as long as you weren't adding a 2/4 to the board, but unfortunately you are.
Can do this though. Nice.
Yep. The Dragon Draw is very nice to be able to now activate that Nether Breath.
Oh. Plenty more where that came from. And this is where it gets interesting, right? I don't think this deck will often just win with the first, oh, okay, Coin Apothecary. I've won because I've got a 7/7. Well, that's not, it's not really game winning a lot of the time. But look at Seiko's hand now, right? He played the Vagrant, and now he's just got 2 Scrapyard Colossus that just drop down, which is 2 waves of 7/7s. And he still has the Togwaggle and the Galakron, like the usual powerful factor of Rogue as well. So maybe Seiko just has enough waves of value to actually get through this instead of having to like cheat stats out early in the game.
Right.
Once again, Jarla has a similar issue of not really being in a position to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, Cursed Vagrant is so obnoxious. You just can't deal with this card. Unless you're playing Sap or Transform or something that doesn't activate Death Rattles, like, how do you even kill a 7/5 into a 7/5 with Stealth?
Yeah. Wait till next expansion when there's some kind of card given to you. Tough. I think the only reason we don't even see this card in more regular Rogues is that the builds are so lean that they don't need it. It's not that the card's not good, it's just that Rogue's so good in what it does in some of the other options. It just doesn't need a 7-drop.
Right. This does set up potentially for like Crazed Netherwing into Dark Skies on the following turn. This is just a 1-card Galakron, just right off the rip for Seiko. 0 invokes, just rips it.
I was actually wondering whether he ever actually just saps the Veiled Worshipper there. He could have sap and then Spy Mistress Van Cleave. It's not amazing, but you go wide on the board. It's not like Jarla has time to play the Veiled Worshipper again. It's another slot in his hand used up, and yeah, you go wide, push a lot of damage.
Sure.
Because as you said, with going brave on the 1-card Galakron, I don't really think there were that many 1 cards that really do too much for Seiko there. The old Moag making Seal Fate an absolute monstrous card. No reason to keep this in stealth, although very powerful initially. Plague of Flames will deal with it now if Jarla chooses to.
So I wonder now Jarla is relatively chilling at 26, whether he might just not clear this turn and just go for the counter-offensive instead, be it either through Dragon Queen Alexstrasza or Galakron.
So many possibilities.
Good news for Jarla is that with Dragon Queen active, that also means his Zephyrus is active if he can find it, which might be a card that he needs to dig himself out of this.
I was wondering whether he does go a little bit of a different way, though. Dark Skies and then the Shadow Weaver. Probably just have a
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Those are pretty good. It's a reduction as well. What's he gonna pull? He's used both Moags, right?
He has used both Moags, yeah. It might just be a 7/9.
No value trades for the 7/5 either. Because it is a 7-drop, right? Still 7 cost?
What is, sorry?
The Shade, or whatever it's
Yes, it
called.
is. Yeah, yeah, it still costs
So I was
7.
saying no value trade into Evolve, which would have been quite nice, honestly.
Maybe.
Ooh, what a horrible turn, and what a great outcome for Jarla there.
Yeah, I really like the counter-offensive. I think this is good recognition of the situation, just to say I can afford to just go in here. Now all of a sudden, the pressure is just completely flipped on its head. Jarla is the player who has minions consolidated and can just push damage. Wow. Strictly worse Titanic Lackey.
I bring life.
Boom! 15!
Yep.
Oh, I love this deck. I do love this deck. I've had a lot of bad things to say about it, but its game plan is just so simple and pure that I can't help but just get behind it.
Ooh. That's a good card.
Okay. That
Probably
is a
would've wanted
very
that
exciting
one.
card. There's the Kronks, though.
Oh.
So now,
Still no
wait, he can...
dragons in hand.
No, but he can anchor, play his 1/1 Death Rattles, and then Kronks AoE? Okay, he can't do that anymore. Which then immediately would have got him the Giant Taunts in play. Now with the Sinister Strike, though, 9... Hang on. 6, 10, 11, 17... No, not quite. Looking at counter-lethals? This is a hard turn. That's my conclusion.
he going to taunt up and then make it clear?
In the
Then we'll trade into the Alexstrasza, maybe?
Yeah, it looks that way.
Okay, so regardless, there were a lot of options there for Seiko. But I think, to be fair to him, he committed to one pretty quickly and got it done. So whether rightly or wrongly, he didn't go too crazy with it.
Out of every minion in the hand, that's the one it chose?
This makes this play very easy to pull off, and then he can follow up with the Alex. Oh.
Seiko, you're about to... I know this turn looks bad. Sorry, friend, it's about to get so much worse. Yep.
Okay, at least the dragons weren't too crazy.
Yeah, Crazy Netherwing, not very exciting there.
It's got to be at least Twilight Drake, right? Is he expecting to need Crazy Netherwing? Wait, he has Crazy Netherwing
Yeah, he is.
anyway.
Yeah, he holds... Right, but he holds Twilight Drake so that both of his Crazy
Double,
Netherwings are
right.
active, and then he just has lethal on the following turn. Which is actually going to be important, potentially, because there was a way that Seiko could make a board full of 7/7 taunts this turn in realistic scenarios. I'm not sure if that play actually worked out, like whether you could clear enough on the previous turn where you went Anchor and then played the 2/1/1 Death Rattles and then Kronk's AoE'd, like I was talking about, and just immediately get your 7/7 taunts in play. I don't know if that cleared off enough of the board with the way that you'd have to trade through all the various taunt minions. You did have a 5/6 in play, which would still be able to attack after the AoE went off.
Right.
So it's something to look at least. But again, I'm with you. That turn was super hard. I think Seiko played a turn that was powerful, consistent, and he executed it nicely. So that's all I'm going to ask for in that turn, I think.
Seiko just going, again! This is not what I need! Big dreams for the bamboozle.
Darkness wanes.
Apparently, according to Sottle, Headcrack always gets there, so...
It always gets there, dude. Every single time.
What if?
I'm free, and so is my curse.
Well, as you pointed out, Sot on a really nice small play. Well, not small players in small. Oh my. Okay. drew the extra one anyway. But Jarla just guaranteeing at worst he could double Craze Netherwing to push 6 damage, knowing that Rogue does not really have access to that much, if any, healing outside of very niche circumstances. Just did the clean play there from Jarla. And again, we mentioned it yesterday, right? Rightly or wrongly, with Jarla bringing this Galakron Warlock maybe a lot more often than most of the players in Grandmasters, it does mean that if that's one of his favorite decks, he will know the ins and outs of it. He'll know how to play everything he did in that game and everything he did this past weekend. And honestly, all the time we've seen him play it has just looked, at worst, solid, right? Maybe not genius level sometimes, but just solid play. And that's what you want from the deck.
Yeah, that makes Warlock now overall 8-1 this week in Hearthstone Grandmasters, which is pretty insane. That one loss is Jarla on Galakron Warlock. So if you then remove that, because Huntrace didn't play his Galakron Warlock in the series, I believe that he had, that means that Quest Warlock exclusively in the other games is undefeated so far this week in Hearthstone Grandmasters, just 100% win rate, which is pretty insane to look at. But yeah, I think very well played there towards the end. Very well played throughout, actually. That was a very easy game to get lost in because it was a lot of 2- and 3-turn planning as to how you were going to break down death rattle boards over multiple turns while developing your own game plan. And Jarla did all of that so well. He had multiple clears set up over multiple turns, but then he also didn't get tunneled into the survival mindset. He recognized that he's freaking Galakron Warlock, and in just about any situation, you can just playfully invoke Galakron and start slapping your opponent in the face with your claw, and that is just a win condition in any matchup. So I think Jarla played that very, very well. We'll give a big shout out to Seiko for his lineup overall, though. I think it's one of the coolest lineups that we've seen this week, and I'm glad that we at least got to see the Rogue pop off and do the powerful things that it can do, even though it wasn't able to get over the line.
Yep, completely true. And again, I just like the clean, solid play from Jarla, helped out by the very powerful demons as well. But let's check out the schedule for the day and see where we are up to after match number 1. Relatively quick, 3-0. You see Jarla taking down Seiko just then. Then we have Pavel versus RDU coming up next. And then Tice versus Zim. So if you're a fan of G2, now is the time to watch, as the next 2 matches are going to feature their 2 players. And we're going to see if RDU can perform with his priest, whereas Pavel not going to be bringing the priest to the lineup and going for that druid instead.
Yeah, it should be a pretty interesting one, because now with that Division A out of the way, you can see here on our breakdown, Division B all the way down, and all of these matches are incredibly important at this point, because basically all of these players are just contested into one big pile in the middle of the group, and Division B is the one where things are really going to get messy, because there's 3 tiers essentially. There's automatic relegation, there's relegation bracket, and then there's playoffs. Actually, there's 4 tiers, because even the playoff spots in Division B are broken down to a playoff to get into playoffs and actually being in playoffs at the end of it. So all of the games individually matter. Individual placements just on a rank by rank basis matter more in Division B as well. And that just so happens, because this is Europe and we like to make things as complicated as possible, in that group where all of that minutia and detail matters even more, we have the most complex breakdown of just how many players are tied in the middle of the group as well. So it's going to be impossible to split this up really until we get into the final week, but this is going to do at least some of the groundwork for us.
Yeah, had to work out then whether you still talk about Hearthstone or just social commentary, saying this is Europe and we have to make things difficult for ourselves. But we'll see how it's going forward anyway. Pavel versus RDU.
Not touching that one, Raven.
It was a joke.
Okay.
Pavel versus RDU, double warrior bans out there, so